The 5-day May Day holiday is usually one of China's busiest travel periods, but a resurgence of the coronavirus is expected to keep people at home. Authorities in Beijing are tightening COVID-19 restrictions to contain an outbreak in the city. Meanwhile, in Shanghai, residents are losing patience after being cooped up at home for more than a month in China's largest lockdown.
The streets of Beijing are supposed to be bustling over the holiday period. Residents and visitors would normally be dining out, shopping, and buying tickets to entertainment venues. But they're mostly at home. Or here, one of the many testing centers meant to keep an outbreak at bay. I believe the Beijing government will not be like the Shanghai government, so Beijing won't suffer the same way that Shanghai did. That was caused by relaxation in prevention and control. Loud, pot-banging protests in Shanghai against COVID-19 restrictions that have included bolted doors on apartment blocks and metal fences erected to almost shut off whole parts of the city. Chinese officials maintain they have to make hard decisions to keep a fragile healthcare system from being overtaxed. China is a country with unbalanced regional development and insufficient medical resources. If the COVID-19 response loosens to let the virus run free, it will definitely lead to a huge number of infections in a short period of time and a large number of severe and fatal cases. The medical resources will run the risk of being depleted. Also at risk of depletion, the resilience of a significant part of the population dealing with almost 2.5 years of the pandemic. Maybe it's been too long. Everyone has different feelings. Some want to go out and have fun, so maybe people's behavior is not as consistent as it used to be.
You look at a city that used to be crowded and now is empty, and you can't help but wonder how we all managed to survive.
While there are concerns about Beijing's climbing rate of infection, Shanghai's new COVID-19 infections hit a low for the last month or so, about 9,200 cases in a city of 25 million. Reasonably good news for one city offering lessons, good and bad, for the rest of the country.
And for more on this, I'm joined by DW correspondent Fabian Kretschmer in Beijing. Fabian, what might happen next there? This situation is getting worse. Are people bracing for a long-term lockdown?
Well, I mean, the worst possible outcome would probably be the fate of Shanghai. I mean, if there would also be a citywide lockdown necessary that would drag on for a month, where even at some degree, to some degree, the food supply would collapse. I'm quite optimistic that this will not exactly happen, but definitely the next weeks, possibly months in Beijing also will be quite bleak. To prevent basically a citywide lockdown, the authorities here have increased their COVID restrictions quite a bit. Over the weekend now, all restaurants had to either shut down or, only take-out food is still allowed. And then basically everywhere you go, it doesn't matter if it's a public park or if it's even a supermarket, you have to show a negative PCR test taken within the last 48 hours. Otherwise, you cannot really enter anywhere. And that is really strictly enforced. So while maybe Beijing could prevent really a citywide lockdown, there's no really a clear answer. What is the exit strategy? What is the long-term game here? Because as some manager of a big company told me recently, after the COVID wave is before the COVID wave. So we basically live in constant fear that a citywide lockdown might be imposed, and this will not really fundamentally change because, of course, Omicron could pop up anytime soon again.
Yeah, and as we've seen in this 2+ years of pandemic, things change. Countries are better or worse every month or so. But China right now seems to be kind of the only big country in the world that is having these massive problems with the coronavirus. Why is that?
Well, China, maybe only next to North Korea or so, is the only country really that sticks to zero COVID. I mean, even Taiwan, which was also quite successfully handling the pandemic, said it will not follow China's path in, locking down entire cities and will try to live with the virus. So while other countries trying to, live with the virus and gradually open up. Here, it's basically still locking down, sealing off, isolation, border closures, etc. That's the strategy. And the problem is we don't have efficient mRNA vaccines. The vaccination rate among the elderly is not high enough to really open up for the authorities. And of course, also the leadership here is trapped in their own propaganda rhetoric because they consistently repeat that our system is superior, we can manage and maintain zero COVID, while actually in the reality the cost of zero COVID is increasing day by day.
Okay, DW's Fabian Kretschmer in Beijing. Thanks for that.